and live. Cool. Oh, good morning to those on my hemisphere. Got my coffee. Got some stuff to rant about. Trying to make sure this channel doesn't completely die. Well, I do not have enough time to edit anything. So that's kind of where we're at. I figure if I do some if I do some live stream stuff mixed in with some edited videos and some real quick phone videos, can keep up a little bit of momentum. So we're getting close to 400 subscribers, which is cool for, me. You might have way more. You might have none. I don't know. I don't know you. All right. Let's talk about L Acoustics. So, L Acoustics, spoiler there, they make some pretty decent, from what I've heard, speakers. I've never personally used them. I've probably heard them. But yeah, so they do a lot of line array stuff. I think they do some constant curvature. I don't know. Short throw, medium throw, long throw, subwoofers. They've got regular old loudspeakers for point source. Oh, I didn't know they do these. Interesting. Huh. I'll have to look into these. Those are cool. I like that. Anyway, they make some stuff. From what I hear, it's really good stuff. And it's very expensive stuff. Acoustics. What's a series? I think I saw X series. Acoustics X series. See if I can find a regular old listing for them. I don't know if they do that. Oh yeah, there we go. Two speakers and an amp/control system. Request price quote. Yeah, like these are install only kind of stuff. Although outside of there, it's telling me way more than I think they actually cost. I really doubt those cost that much, especially when I scroll down and this says like out of stock for a set for like 3,000 euros. That seems a little more reasonable than the 16,000 US I'm seeing up here. So that looks a little more accurate. But yeah, not cheap. But and flight case for 2-piece included. Okay, that yeah. They make, from everything I've heard though, some really amazing speakers. And somebody was counterfeiting them. They just won a historic $5 million lawsuit against a rental company for trademark infringement, counterfeiting, and unfair competition. Essentially, now, you can go press release, L Acoustic wins historic, right? Like this ULR is kind of hilarious up top. But you can go and read the whole press release if you would like. But yeah, L Acoustics won a lawsuit. Essentially, it came down to people were counterfeiting their products, which is a big deal, right? We live in a world of Fibsons, or Chibsons, depending on who you ask, where we've got these fake guitars and stuff going around, and some people are perfectly fine with it because it's like, oh, well, I can get something that plays just as good as, and they don't play just as good as a Gibson. I mean, if one does, cool, I guess. But stuff like that, if somebody sells you a Gibson guitar and you pay top dollar for it, you're gonna be pretty ticked if you find out that it's fake. So these guys renting out Acoustics line arrays and or selling Acoustic line arrays that were counterfeit is a problem. 5 counterfeiters who were subsequently found guilty and sentenced to jail for producing and selling counterfeit acoustic speakers in China. Yeah, so I saw a weird defense of this. Not a defense, just a rebuttal of like, well, I guess a rebuttal is kind of a counter, uh, of, hey, if nobody noticed, that just shows you how these speakers are so overpriced, blah blah blah. Something that you have to remember with line array speakers, well, two things you have to remember with line array speakers. One is there is a decent amount of engineering going on to make them do what they do properly, right? I couldn't build a line array. I could probably build a point source, right? You give me a horn and a woofer, and I can, put them in a box and make it sound good if it's a good woofer and if it's a good tweeter. Line arrays are a bit more complicated. There's a bit more engineering and stuff going on in terms of waveguides and all that kind of crap. I'm not going to speak as if I know the engineering going on, because that's the whole point, is that I don't. But one of the big things with line array systems is safety. You are hanging hundreds of pounds of speaker from truss. A properly certified speaker is a must from a insurance standpoint, right? If I hang a speaker and it falls, there's a chain of events leading to the speaker falling that will determine who gets sued if it hurts somebody, or even if it has the potential to hurt somebody, right? You can, if you crash your car into the side of somebody's house and nobody gets hurt, but somebody could have gotten hurt, right? Like those change things a bit. But yeah, when it comes to these, right, you're hanging these things. They have, the steel plates across the side that you've got all of this rigged to the ceiling, or to your truss rather. Then these all hanging. If any of this gives out and this thing falls, if it's the speaker's fault, I did my job. I hung it properly. If somebody wants to sue, I can prove that, no, it was a faulty component, and they need to sue the manufacturer, not necessarily me. Depending on where you live, mileage may vary. If somebody sold me counterfeit speakers and that's what made the thing fall to its doom, it's a lot easier for me as the installer or as the engineer, like if it's my system, to say, well, I thought these could handle X amount of pounds, like this is what these are rated for when I read the manual, and it could not. Again, easier to point to it. If I knew they were counterfeit and I tried to run them as if they weren't, then that's on me. So the companies that were renting these very, very large, very precariously hung speakers, yeah, they deserve a big lawsuit. And yeah, and like I said, it's not just, nobody noticed sound wise, because we can get into intellectual property conversations, and that, if somebody knows the engineering side of it, they could probably build a speaker for cheaper and that kind of thing. Yeah, sure. I get it, I guess. I still think the person who comes up with the designs should benefit more than, a counterfeiter in China. But if you look at this from a safety perspective, oh boy, is this a good thing that they clamp down on this, right? Because even if these were 100% safe, there's certifications, there's testings, and there's things you have to do to make sure, again, that whoever is down the chain that you've sold these or rented to is safe and knows that they're safe, right? I bought a powerlifting bar that's rated to 700 pounds. Somebody was asking, can it actually do 700 pounds? Is this thing going to snap at 700 pounds? And somebody kind of pointed out, it actually probably can handle like 800 to 900 pounds. Because if that thing snaps while you're, having it across your back, that's a lawsuit of like, you told me this thing was rated to 700 pounds and it broke at 700 pounds. Here's your piece of paper. And it costs money in a lot of cases to get not just like, hey, yeah, we tested it and it says it can handle this much weight, or hey, yeah, we tested it, right? I know Yorkville, if you've seen my video on the YX15s that I just put out probably a month ago now. Yorkville tests all their speakers where they'll actually have pulleys pulling on everything. That can work. But if you have third-party certifications, that becomes a whole nother ballgame. And I'm willing to guess Acoustics with these line array systems I'm willing to guess these probably have some type of certification when it comes to safety. Right? Like, these guys are making document center service unavailable right now. Oh, that's too bad. And again, even if they don't have third-party certifications, again, they are telling you, hey, this can do all of this. You kind of, like, you can hang X amount. Here's your, the directionality of the thing, or directivity. If the weight is different, right? If I'm an end user, and say this L-Acoustic one weighs 123 pounds, and the ones that I bought actually weigh 133 pounds, so the ones that I rented or whatever, and I'm hanging 10 of them, I've just increased the weight on that side by 100 pounds without me knowing it. Because I don't know about you. I don't know if I could, like, the difference between 123 and 133 pounds, depending on the situation, I don't know if I would notice that or not. It's a 10% weight difference, right? But if I have, somebody else helping me lift it, which is what I would be doing if I'm dealing with a 123-pound speaker, I might not be able to catch that. And then all of a sudden, when you're running massive line arrays, right? If you're running a system like this, where that's probably 15 or so, if not more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably 15, yeah. And then they've got another set behind by the look of it, time aligning and all that kind of crap. But what happens now if I'm running an extra 150, 200 pounds on this side that I didn't account for? Again, safety. So you can say what you want about, like, oh, nobody noticed that this company was renting out counterfeit speakers. Well, one, how do you know that, right? Somebody caught on to this. And, like, there's also that. What happens if these things sounded like garbage? Or we're just okay, and the L-Acoustics are like 5 notches above them in terms of sound quality? It might not be somebody noticed, because you might not, like, if I'm renting from a company and they bring out 30 of these. I'm not going to A/B that against 30 other Acoustics ones, or like, if I say have used Acoustic speakers in the past, but I'm at a new venue and this was the rental house for that venue, like, or that's close to that venue. How the hell am I supposed to tell that these are counterfeit if I walk into the venue and like, man, these speakers don't sound as good as the last time I used them? It must just be the event hall, worse acoustics. We just got to deal with it. Okay, adjust the EQ as necessary. But if they don't sound as good as well, and I've never used Acoustics, and I try them, and I'm like, why would I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a line array like this if they sound like this, right? So counterfeit products, I can understand why somebody might look at a speaker and think, oh, that's overpriced. But yeah, you shouldn't. The counterfeit side of these, it's a way bigger deal, in my opinion, uh, than than some of these people I was hearing from make it out to be. This is actually like a big problem and a big deal. Oh, all right. I'm hoping it lets me clip that because I forgot to hit the record button. But yeah, so other stuff. Okay, start recording. Gotta remember that this time. Moving head speakers. They are an interesting thing. When I first saw that these exist, now what's this? Right. That's just kind of weird, right? And this demo, I think, shows it just fine for what it actually is trying to do, right? There's some good design choices here, right? We got coiled cables instead of straight. That lets it move a little easier. Yeah. When I first saw this, though, my head went to, why the heck would I ever want a moving head speaker? Because my brain goes to moving heads. My brain goes to moving head lights, like these guys, right? I have something similar to these. I don't. Mine are smaller and have the 4-in-1 in the lens rather than RGBW on the face. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. These moving head speakers are actually way smarter than I thought they were. Because, yeah, my brain went to, who the heck would ever want a moving head speaker? When you move something, like you're changing the directionality of the sound, you never want to do that in the middle of like a DJ performance, because my brain went DJ. Where what it should have done is gone pro sound and install sound. So this here, I believe this is, the K-Array Owl. It's an 8-inch speaker on a a moving head bracket. And these things are actually really cool. Again, my brain said, who would ever use that? And then I watched a video from the guys that made these speakers. They raised some really, really valid use cases, especially so they built in a little camera on it. I mean, it's probably basically the equivalent of what I have here, of like, I'm using a $20 webcam today because my DSLR is somewhere. Why would you ever want that? Well, it's so that you can aim it remotely. So for large stage productions, these could actually be very, very useful for industrial use in terms of like public address systems, being able to aim this at who you want to get information to so that you know the speaker is facing towards them. You could install a whole lot less speakers in those types of situations if you can target where you want to aim the speaker to. So, general use case for these isn't usually going to be mains, right? I wouldn't use a set of these, for instance, as like a front of house system, but as monitors, right? Say you have a permanent installed stage and you have these either hanging from above, aiming down, which is a good possibility with these now because they're aimable, or you have them on deck. And now, say your guitar player stands up and he's going to go and use the keyboard. You don't have to send a technician up to do it. You can just aim the thing, and because it has a little built-in camera, you can see what you're doing rather than. Am I? Okay, I think I got it. So yeah, I've heard some use cases now for these because much like myself, a lot of DJs have seen this and thought, who would ever use one of those? That's like the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then I actually looked into them, and they're really cool. Now, ooh, actually, I was gonna say, what's the SPL on this little 8-inch guy? But 126, yeah, 126 dB off of an 8-inch speaker. So don't expect, the best frequency response. Uh, frequency range, what? Okay, somebody screwed up on this stat. Uh, they're saying in its frequency range, it can do 120 dB. I like that they actually tell me the continuous. But again, that is more than loud enough for a monitor. And an 8-inch would do you fine for vocals. I'm trying to see. Because they have the amplifiers frequency response. I'd be curious. 8 inches at an 8-inch at that uh, that volume isn't going to be putting out a lot of 20 hertz. Let's just put it that way. But again, for vocal monitoring, right? Large church setups, right? You see these massive stages on some of these like mega churches and stuff like that. That's what these things are for. And yeah, having an arsenal of these and being able to aim them at will, not having to, move the monitor's physical location to accommodate like a slightly different setup from, one band to the next, or one speaker who likes to, this guy likes to walk up front there. Okay, well, we're going to have one that kind of can follow them a little bit so that they can always hear themselves. I will say, though, I don't know what these things cost. I'm seeing if there's any. Yeah, add to quote, right? They don't strike me as something that you can just go out and buy. It's time to get discontinued product. I only heard about these like a few days ago. Yeah, and like a lot of these, I guess that one's been around since 2015. But yeah, I only heard about these a few days ago from some DJs that were kind of bashing them, which makes sense. For their use case, you would never use something like this. But I could see, I could see some very valid uses of these. However, in your monitors, I know they're not perfect for every setup, but the extra cost of having a movable speaker like that. I don't know. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would bother personally, but I do see more use cases than my brain initially went to, because I think they actually have a purpose. It's just not for me, right? Which is always the case, right? You always want to look at a product and think who would actually use it rather than I would never use it. That's moving head speakers. Well, that's only like 25 minutes of content. But that's okay. I'll see if I can clip that first part, and if I can't, I will re-record it.